Welcome back to the Mastering Runeterra Podcast with Jae and Bae, the #1 source for competitive Legends of Runeterra news and information. If you're looking for the best decks to play right now, be sure to check us out on Twitter at Master Runeterra or in our Discord. And if you want to take the next step in leveling up your game, check out our Runeterra team on Patreon, where we do weekly learning calls and one-on-one coaching. Now strap in and grab yourself some Poro snacks, because we are about to start Mastering Runeterra.
Welcome everyone to the Mastering Runeterra Podcast with Jae and Bae. We got a quick one for you guys today. Going to be special. We have both written down our 5 things that we think people do wrong in LOR and why they lose. We're going to go over them. We don't know what each other's are. I'm sure there'll be some overlap, but
I bet there'll be a lot of overlap.
Where they go.
I'm going with
probably
2.5. That's my line. 2.5.
Yeah, I would say an easy. I would say an easy 3,
but not 4.
If not 4.
I don't know.
Some of them
4 seems like a lot.
No, not 4. Okay, you want to? Okay, all right. Well, we're gonna find out. But we're gonna dive into them. It's gonna be some good stuff in here for you guys, because these are really things that, like, you know, people keep doing these, and then the reason, if you were to correct these or start doing these right, you do a whole lot of winning. You do a whole lot of crushing. So these are the things, like I'm guilty of doing some of these. We'll bring them up when we go through them. That I know I need to fix. And I actually was even thinking about one of them, about making a challenge to kind of like out to the community. Like, if I don't do this every week, like I have to pay someone, like raffle off $100 or like some BS like that. We'll see. We'll see if I'll do it. Anyway, we'll get into it. Before we do that, though, we have to thank all of our patrons, our subscribers. Thank you guys so much. For anyone that doesn't know, we launched subscriptions last month on the website. Now you get premium content. You get our 3-hour-a-week learning call. You get ad-free viewing, support us, making awesome stuff like our new ladder, which just dropped on the website like yesterday. So now we have our own ladder. If you want to see what people are crushing with, you can go on there, grab their deck lists, go play it yourself. It's fantastic. Also, you know, supports us. And we have a tournament coming up on April the 9th. Basically the second week after the new after the patch drops next week, which we're super excited for. Next week's podcast, we're gonna have a lot to talk about, and then we're rushing straight into seasonals after that. Super excited, can't wait for it. So with that said, let's jump into it. Bae, what do you got? Number 5.
Is it in order of like most to least? Because I just wrote them down.
I mean, I kind of
organize it.
Ish. Okay, if you want, I'll go first. I'll go first then. While you are
most important or least important? First?
So my number 5, least important first, working up to most important. Yeah, mine aren't like they're all important. So, but like definitely the top ones, I think. I definitely nailed. Okay, so number 5, players play the game like it's MTG, curving out and not realizing that it's like that's not how the game
MTG's
works
Magic the Gathering
at all. Who doesn't know
some
that?
people. Yeah.
Someone might. Yeah. So in Magic the Gathering, if you don't know though, mana efficiency is king. Like everything. Yeah. Literally, if you just spent all of your mana, maximized it every single turn, you're like 70% the way to
probably
win
more than
80%.
You lose if you like don't even read your cards, if you just cast them in the right order.
Yeah. And in that game, people don't realize that that's what you're supposed to be doing, and they a lot of times like try to play around things. They try to be tricky, and they just don't spend their mana, and then they just die because they get like too far behind, and their opponent does something and their cards don't interact well, and then they skip their turn and it's over. Runeterra is not like that at all. It's much more like poker, where you're trying to trap your opponent, you're trying to set them up, you're trying to set up a game plan that kills them before their game plan kills you, and also at the same time interacting with their game plan. It's a delicate balance and a dance, and so that's a huge mistake that basically like definitely all Magic players have to make.
We all made
coming in. You're just like cast things, but not casting not playing cards is correct. Like, I don't know, 50% of the time, probably almost equally as correct as when you are playing the cards. And not abusing the pass mechanic, which I guess I didn't put in there, is realizing that the attack token is a resource, which goes into that. It is a resource just like mana or just like your health. It is a very important resource. You can trap your opponents by like having challenger units. That's a huge one that you see people really realizing that if you have a challenger unit, it means like your opponent kind of gets stuck, that maybe they can't get that important Lee Sin or overwhelm unit down that they need to, because you're going to kill it with your challenger unit. So it's often correct, or you have to just not attack. You can't, because if you do, they get to play their unit and then they're going to win the game. And that's just something that people just don't understand. So start paying attention to that. Start passing a lot more. Start having a real reason to use your mana before.
The big one in that is like Sivir.
That's my number.
Like you can keep your opponent from playing Sivir, and then they either have to like play something that's not Sivir and isn't very mana efficient, and then you can go ahead with your attack anyway, or they don't pay anything and you get to end the turn if you want to, right? Or you get to develop a little and then end the turn. Yeah, that's a big one. That was a big one for me to overcome, especially because like when we started, people, that was the beginning of seasonals, and like people hadn't quite figured out how important it was yet, except at like the high level, and we weren't at that high level yet.
Yeah, it was at that stage. It was all about like, do you develop or do you open?
Those were your question. That was your one question. You had two options.
Those were your two options.
Either open or you develop. That was it. But now it's like a lot more intricate. If we play this, we get to open pass. If I open attack, I get a free pass, and I can end the turn after. Or if they develop, it's like a whole thing. But yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. What's your number 5?
Number 5, the least important one, I think, is not sticking to one deck. And what I mean, I know like, but Majiin, I want to play tournaments and I have to play a bunch of different decks to do that. And like, you're right. But what I mean is like not sticking to one deck long enough to like learn it really. There's a difference between like, I can play this deck and like, I know this deck, right? Like I could play a lot of decks. I can basically pick up and play anything in the game at like a pretty high level.
Yeah, you could, and like, and anyone can click
can click the buttons, right?
You can just cast the spells.
But I know Lee Sin.
Yeah,
I know everything about Lee Sin, right? Like, I played Lee Sin for so long that like the ins and outs and stuff, I win games people don't win with Lee Sin. Not with other decks. I'll make big mistakes with other decks, but like Lee Sin, I usually have pretty dialed in because I've spent so much time on it. And like that's the difference. We've all felt it, right? Like there's the decks you play, and then there's your favorite deck. And like matchups that are kind of bad matchups with your favorite deck don't feel that bad. Your good matchups feel like you can't lose, right? Like that's what I'm talking about. You want to get to that level. Because it really is such a huge difference. You think you're like, I'm playing the deck like really well. I'm just not winning as much. But like, man, once you like cross that level, it's insane. For example, last season, Ariken and Go Hard, I was really struggling with that deck. Really struggling being like, I was winning slightly more than 50% of my games, right? Which is like not enough to like climb in Masters at all. So I was just kind of like stuck here with Ariken and Go Hard. And then I just like kept running my head into the wall. I just kept playing it. I was asking, what am I? Aikedo, Push Me, everybody questions about Ariken. And I was like, how do I get better at this deck? How do I learn this deck? I was watching people. I kept playing games. And then eventually I got to the spot where like I knew Ariken. And I just couldn't lose, right? It doesn't like, it's hard to tell. Sorry, I keep cutting you off. It's hard to tell that there's like such a big difference, but like, my God, there is.
Huge. Yeah, and here's the thing, and here's why that difference is important. Because where does your edge come from? Basically, everyone has all the deck lists. It's not like in other card games where you can show up with a new deck and kind of like surprise the field. Like that happens in Magic, or like has happened, or like early in formats. That doesn't happen in LOR, like for a seasonals. Like there's not enough time. It's very like, I'm trying to think of if it's ever happened.
All the data's out
but, like,
there.
not really. Basically,
like Runeterra.
Yeah, all the data's out there, and like the best lists are basically out there, and not everyone plays them, but like they're out there. And so if everyone has the same deck lists, where does your edge come from? How are you any better than anyone else? Like, you don't want to just be flipping coins, and it comes from knowing the matchups better, and you have to put in reps and really learn, which will come on some of my future ones as well. Okay, my number 4, players don't learn how to mulligan correctly.
I have that.
And
I
this
have
is
that
something
one.
I'm kind of guilty of as well. I'll pick up a deck and just be like, yeah, I could do it. Even check this out. Even like Caitlyn
Yeah.
Ezreal. I've played lots of Draven Ezreal. And I played a lot of Kate as this season, a decent amount, probably like, I don't know, 50 to 100 games or something in there. And even then, like, I'll get into a matchup and I'll be like there's the basic ones. Like, you want Tri-Beam almost every matchup.
Caitlyn,
There's
yeah, okay, right.
Yeah. Caitlyn, yeah, because that's your best card and your like best card to activate it kind of thing. And then things start to get a little tricky. You know, there's a lot of nuance. There's so many different matchups out there. There's a lot of different cards. They're kind of good, kind of not good. So I don't know. For instance, like against Darkness, like, are you keeping Mystic Shot or something so you can kill the first Catalyzer? Like, yes. I've been doing that, but like I'm like, am I? Yeah. But like, there's lots of scenarios. There's other cards like that though, right? Like I don't know, Zoe. Like, you're playing against like a Zoe Lux, or even like a Zoe. Say like Lee Sin,
like
Zoe.
Zoe Aurelion.
Now it's like,
do you want or Zoe Lee Sin? Like, do you want Mystic Shot?
Yeah, because like, okay, you can kill that Zoe.
It doesn't kill anything else. That's for sure.
Exactly. And so there's lots of situations like that where it's just kind of like, when do you want that removal? When do you not? When do you sort of want these some of these other units? When do you want like maybe a House Spider? Maybe you want to go on a more aggressive game plan. And and learning how to mulligan properly is like, you win or lose games from mulliganing all the time.
You don't even know it.
People do not know it. Realize it. Yes, they're like, oh, they had that thing, or I didn't have this thing, or this happened or that happened. You might have lost the game when you threw away this card or didn't dig hard enough for this other card. And it's actually really, really tough to do because, like, I don't know, we used to put out some mulligan guides, but like no one else is really doing that. Like, there's not really a lot of mulligan guides out there, and there's not a lot of interest many decks. Yeah, there's not a lot of interest.
People say because
people just don't get it.
Teach me how to mulligan this deck, and it's just they don't listen.
It's super high level, and then all of a sudden, like, what if their list is a little bit different from the one that someone made the guide the month earlier, and now the matchup is different, and it's very nuanced. And so that's something that I think people should. I don't know how you practice that a lot.
I got one. I was actually just thinking about this.
I got some. But let's go on to yours.
It's also mine, a big one, right? I also picked that. People don't mulligan correctly. It's a very big deal. I mulligan.
Is this your number 4?
Yeah. I mulligan so much.
Okay.
I think I keep on average like 0.7 of a card each game. I don't keep cards.
So you're saying like you like throw like 3 and a bit back. I throw
3 and a bit back
on average. Is that kind of what you're saying? Okay.
Because finding like so many cards are replaceable. You know what I mean? It's why I'll like never keep pump spells unless there's like a very specific reason I'm keeping it. I'm not going to go into example, but because they're so replaceable. Whereas like a lot of times, and you want like the units first and then the pump spells, right? Same thing with like Mystic Shot and Draven Ezreal. The only time I keep Mystic Shot is against like, I don't know, maybe spiders and like Darkness because I need to shoot Catalyzer. If I don't have anything else. And the rest of the time I won't, because it's not what I like. It's fine, but there's so many things that do what Mystic Shot does, right, in that deck. So a valuable exercise that before I get into that, I find the less familiar I am with the deck, the less I mulligan. If I don't know a deck very well, I will not mulligan very many cards. Because
you keep like some.
I'll keep a lot of safe cards.
Like some curve.
The more I know a deck, the less cards I keep. Right.
That makes perfect sense.
So I propose an exercise to people who are looking to improve their mulliganing skills. Pick a deck. You see the matchup. Do this. Don't look at your hand. Right. You see the matchup. I'm against Darkness. Pick 3 cards you would keep against Darkness. Your 3 best cards. I want Zoe. I'd still like to have a Gifts from Beyond and Lee Sin. Those are the cards I'd keep against Darkness. Every other card, you're not allowed to keep. Mulligan it. Do that every single game.
Yeah, and that puts you so close. and I realize this is something again that's a holdover from Magic for me, where like there was I forget what it's called, like it's a 5-mana 4/5 thing that you have to play like 80 cards in your deck. So normally you play 60 cards in Magic.
Oh, Yorion.
And playing more is crazy. Yeah, Yorion, right? So 80 cards. It turned out in this format though, all the cards were so freaking powerful. It didn't matter. You just run 80 and it's totally fine. That's not how it is in Runeterra. If you have a Zoe on one or you have an action on two, like the chances of you winning that game compared to the ones that you don't have those is like a lot higher. Like a lot higher. Action especially. Like Sivir Action, when you have action on two, is like game
Best
changer.
deck in the game. Yeah. Same with Darkness. Darkness
Totally
with Catalyzer
different.
on 2 is a different ball game.
Exactly.
And so like for so long,
Tri-beam with Tri-beam.
I was playing Darkness on ladder like the season it came out to like an 85% win rate because I would mulligan every single card that wasn't Catalyzer or Vhagar. Because those were just like the only ones that mattered. And like, oh, I'm against spiders. I guess I'll keep Vile Feast. But like I was upset about it because I wasn't looking for Catalyzer hard enough, right? Or Vhagar. Yeah, like don't do that anymore. But like it should give you a good idea of like how important the important cards are. You know? Mulligan more.
Yeah, there's I forget who it is, like Dr. Lore or whatever, that does the
sheet,
mulligan percentages, where it's like if you keep this in your mulligan, you win this percentage or that percentage or whatever. And I didn't realize just how helpful that was. It was like, I don't know, that seems like a cute statistic or whatever. But like there was some deck, it was like one of the aggro decks. And it was like if you, and so like triple 1-drop used to be like the nuts. You're like, oh yeah, that's what you wanted out of your aggro. And it turned out that, and it was like Ziggs aggro, some sort. And it turned out that if you kept any of the 1-drops or like more than one of them or something, like your win percentage was like below 50, with like 48. But if you kept like whatever the champs were, the win percentage was like 60% or something. It was like hugely different. And yeah, I didn't realize like Yordle in Arms is another card that I was like, I don't know, it's like a late game card, or like you get it like later, like I want my units and stuff. But like, no, it turns out the card's crap. What you want that, like you need it, it wins you the game. You have a bunch of stupid units. You'll get a bunch of them. It's harder to find the 3 of Yordle in Arms. And so yeah, Action Sivir. Anytime I keep a card that's not action in my mulligan, I'm very upset about it.
Akshan and Vagabond, because it's so important. Those are my top 2 keeps in Akshan Sivir, Akshan Vagabond. I will mulligan the 2/1 1-mana card a lot.
Yeah.
All right.
In Magic, you would never do
it. You give me a 1-drop on turn 1? That's insane. That's nuts. All right.
Okay, so that was your
my
number 4.
Is
my number 3 now?
My number 3. Oh, it's split between my number 3 and my number 2. I have my number 1, I think, pretty much locked in. And it's more to make a point than anything. But like,
give me a number. Pick a number 3.
Number 3 is going to be autopiloting. People autopilot too much.
Oh,
and I know what you're saying. I know you're listening to this and you're going, Bae, I don't autopilot. I think through my decisions.
No autopilot. You do after 2 games.
Yes, you do. So just like, I don't just mean like just autopiloting, like turning off your brain and playing the game. What I mean is like you're just playing the game. You know, like you might be thinking really hard about this game, but what you're not doing is thinking hard about the game in a more productive way. You might be thinking about this game, but I want you to learn for the matchup. Like I want you to theorize. I want you to hypothesize and test and see what happens, right? And then change your hypothesis and test again. And like that's learning. That's not autopiloting. That's improving. No one fucking cares. Okay, I could say the F word. It's our podcast. No one cares if you won that ladder game.
Yep.
But what matters is if now that you know this card is very relevant, and that you have to push tempo hard on turns 2, 3, and 4 before something happens, right? Like that's the kind of stuff that really matters. And I think that's what makes like the best players is the ability to learn. They're jumping into these games not just to play the game, not just to win, but to get better and to learn.
Yep. And I'll do it for about 2 games. And then on my 3rd game, I'll start just being like, oh, what do they have in their hand? What do they have here? What could I have? And not being like, okay, so in this game, I went really hard on the tri-beams. I had all 3 of them, powered them way the fuck up, and I still lost. And that's like 2 games in a row I did that now. So next game, I'm going to go hard aggro at them, forget about this tri-beam late game shit, because it's not working, and I'm just going to try and go like tempo burn. Fucking get them. Slow burn this motherfucker out.
Slow burn.
Man, I'm swearing a lot right now. That's like the kind of attitude. That's like what my head sounds like though. When I'm in that learning mentality, I'm like a savage. I'm just like I want to destroy my opponents. I'm going on another level.
I do that too. And I sit there and like, this is me inside my head. It's me like pacing back and forth. Like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And I'm going to get him with this. And we're going to get him. And we're going to go. And like,
yes. And then they're here. And we're here. And then, done. Got him. Next game.
I don't know. I get super hyped when I do that too. I don't know why. But
I do
like,
too.
yeah. Anyway, that's mine. People autopilot. And they do it even when they think they're not doing it.
Yes. Yeah. That's a fantastic one. I don't have that on my list. That's really good. I have number 3. Players don't rewatch their games. Ooh. And this is one that I'm actually really guilty of. I know how important it is, and still I'm a lazy fuck, and I just don't do it. And this is why I think I'm gonna do a thing now where if I don't submit a VOD to each of the weekly team learning calls, then like I have to do some sort of like punishment or something. Okay. We'll have to think of what it is. Anyone listening, put some suggestions down in the comments. Please don't say
you have to post a YouTube video on a deck with 5 matches, but I get to pick the deck.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty savage. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's a good one. Like, I'm also super guilty of that. I don't watch my VODs. I do watch.
It's the best way to learn.
It's so good. Yeah, there's a reason why like you watch tape in sports. You rewatch your chess matches, right? Like you watch other people's chess matches. Like it's the absolute best way to learn. And I don't do it. Now I do go back and edit my videos, so I do see my games again. Right. But like I don't zero in and go, And
then even better than that is getting other people to look over your games.
Yeah. And don't just like,
because it's sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
Don't
right?
just like watch your game and be like, because I know a lot of people are probably hearing this and they're going like, okay, well, I want to improve because you're listening to this podcast, so you probably do. I want to improve. I'm going to watch my VOD, but I don't really know how to do it. Right? It's not, you don't just turn on your VOD and you watch it and you go, oh, I lost here. That sucks. What you should do is you go, okay, I lost because our opponent was able to really switch the tempo on me on turn 7 with this card and this card. And then you go, you back up and you go, what did I do to allow my opponent to do that? What could I have done to stop that? Right? Okay, maybe I could.
All the way
okay, maybe I couldn't have stopped it. Maybe I could have pushed harder. Right? Like, let's see what I could have done to push harder. And that helps. Like what we're talking about with the not autopiloting, what I really want people to do, and I tell this to all the people I coach, I'm like, I want you to have a theory in your head. Like if you go back and you say, okay, maybe if I pushed harder, they couldn't do that. Well, now next time you play in that matchup, you push harder and you see if that works. Maybe now they can't flip that tempo on you turn 7 or turn 8 or whatever, right? And yeah, we're gonna get into that a bit more with one of my other ones. But yeah, like same thing.
But yeah, watching and it's crazy, like how much you actually miss.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You're gonna be shocked.
You're gonna be like, I did this.
I've only watched tape on myself like a small amount of time. The first time I did, I noticed I just missed like I don't know, just like missed some damage or something. Like imagine like my opponent was tapped out, had no units, I just like forgot to attack. It was something like that level of like how did I ever miss that and not notice? Like that's impossible. And then the other was like I was kind of like a master with a certain deck. Like I won a freaking Grand Prix with it. I was pretty damn good at playing it. And I was explaining to the creator of the deck, oh, I lost this game, like, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. This happened. He's like, well, let's go look at it. Okay. I was like, I guess so. Like, what a waste of time. Like, sure. By like turn 2 or 3, I had made a critical error that cost me the rest of the game. And I was like, holy did not ever see that coming. Because I did something, so they did something, and allowed them to do something, and it like snowballed away the rest of the game. And that was in Magic. So like in Runeterra, it really, like those small edges really happen. So yeah, do it, watch some tape, and if you want to do it one level higher, come join the subscription service, and join us, the team call.
Our VOD reviews.
Every week, plug away, baby.
Are really good. They're really good.
So good. It's banger of a team call today. We had like 20 people in there.
Yeah.
Really good.
And then what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take my favorite from one of my YouTube videos of the week and submit it as well. Because I should be doing this as well. It's my turn.
Yeah.
It's my turn. Number 2. All right. Number 2 is you play bad decks.
Oh, that's my number 2. Players pick the wrong decks for ladder or tournament.
Yep. You play bad decks.
Yeah.
Bro, I cannot tell you how, I mean, I probably can because you do coaching too. But like not just in Flesh and Blood, not just in Runeterra, but in Flesh and Blood, in Magic, and everything. People will be like, "Oh, I'm playing this deck," and I'll be like, "Why?" Right? Like, why are you playing this deck? And
I think it's good.
Oh, I think it's good, not. And I just have a problem playing. I just have a problem playing the best deck, and I'm like, I'm gonna come at you people right now. Are you ready? I used to be that person. I need you to accept a couple things. Yeah, we've all been that person. I need you to accept a couple things, right? The excuses I hear are you just don't like to play the best deck because you like to play interesting stuff or your own decks. So I'm going to say, one, you're not special. Not playing the best deck does not make you special. Just a little bit. It makes you special, but not in a profitable way.
Caveat there that like building the skill of like deck building is a useful thing.
Yeah. But like if you go, why can't I climb on ladder? And I'd be like, well, are you playing this best deck? And they say no. I'll be like, what do you want from me? Like, give yourself,
Yeah, when you're like, I got my Heimerdinger brew and I can't seem to make it to Masters. Well, guess what? I've pinpointed the reason.
Let's start here. So fix that. Play the better decks. And then the one I hear all the time, and the one that I really get on people about is that they say, I don't like to play the mirrors. I'm not going to play the best deck because I don't like to play the mirrors. Yeah. And I believe that people think that because they're scared. Because
and that's fair. Actually, you know what? I just thought of a time when I had that happen when I was playing in a like small pro tour thing, and it was like a heavy control meta, and I knew I was going to have to go up against the best in the world, and I straight up was like, I don't want to play mirrors against those people. And then like after that tournament, I ended up playing mirrors against those people, and I was beating them lots of times, and I was like,
I've done the same thing. I have not played the best deck in the room because I didn't feel comfortable playing mirrors because I thought people were better than me. Because I was scared. I was scared to play mirrors, and because there's no excuse. You're playing the best deck and you're playing against the same deck, right? If you lose, there's no excuse. There is a lot of excuses. Some people draw, but I think that's what's like.
I drove my Lees. Majiin didn't.
That's like I think that's what's going on in people's like subconscious because like that's what I used to think. Yeah. And it took me a lot of kind of like I guess soul searching to kind of get to that and like be okay with being the guy with the best deck in the room. And now it's like almost my like calling card for tournaments is open rounds of seasonals. Majiin's gonna be playing the best deck. Like that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna. There's a reason.
There's a reason it's the best deck. The other one I hear is because it has a target on it. People are afraid of playing a deck because it has a target on it. And all of these there are some justifications. There are like little caveats here. It's true. You don't always want to play the thing that has the target on it. You should be brewing, but like, are you What Am I? You're not. So, you know.
Also, I still think if What Am I just played the top 3 best decks in the format, he'd have won 2 seasonals.
He'd probably do better.
Like, you know. I feel like people are handicapping themselves, and I'm so like aggressive about this because I cannot get people to accept this. I cannot seem to get people to play the best thing no matter what I tell them.
And well, here's the other thing though, is like, why do people play the game? A lot of people are playing to win, but also have fun. And so that is acceptable. You have to realize though that you are handicapping yourself a bit, and us as coaches, we are trying to give you the best chance at winning. Like for instance, I won a Grand Prix with a deck that was like kind of off meta, or that was off meta, and top 8 another one. But had I just played the best deck in every tournament throughout Magic, I probably would have like won 2 or 3 or something, like, or top 8 a bunch more, you know? So play some because
I get it, right? If Scouts was the number 1 deck, I wouldn't want to play Scouts. It's not my thing.
Yeah. And exactly. There's other caveats too. There's lots of caveats to this, but in general. Another one though is tournament lineups. So many times people will throw a shitter of a tournament of a deck as their 3rd deck, and I'm like, I got this. I'm going to dumpster all over that 1/3 deck. I'm going to ban 1 of your 2 good decks, and just you are dead to rights with your like I don't know, discard aggro.
Your other 2 decks
like,
don't matter.
Whatever.
I have this one, and I'm going to beat this one twice.
Because I got this one on lock, and that's one of the problems with bringing shit decks.
Yep.
Okay, number 1.
You're up.
Okay. So this kind of like goes with all of them, but it's people don't know how to play their decks correctly.
Whoa.
And that's kind of like ties into everything that we've been talking about. But people like don't realize that they don't know how to play their decks correctly. There's nothing wrong with that. Because like I was talking about with Ezreal Caitlyn, I put in a bunch of time, and still there's just lots that I don't know. Because there's so much to learn and so much to know. And people will pick up decks, play like 20 games, and be like, I kind of got it. They're like, this guy or this deck's bad. But like, you actually don't know how to play the deck. And it like someone asked this on Reddit, like how many games to master a deck, and people were like 50. Some people said 100. I said 500. Like to master a deck, know it inside and out, all your matchups, know what to master, know what you're gonna do in every situation. Easy 500.
I agree.
So I think that's the biggest problem.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And you're always learning new stuff, even if it's like just a little bit of new stuff in one particular matchup. It'll like change it. I'm with you on that one.
What's your number?
My
one?
number one. A lot of people I think could probably guess this. If you've ever been coached by me, you could probably guess this one. It's not having a macro plan. What'd you say? What was yours?
I said don't have a
game
plan.
That's literally what it is you don't have a game plan. And like, I think, let's not get this confused with being like, okay, I'm playing spiders. Well, my game plan is to aggro them out and then cast burn spells. It's like, sure. But like, what's your win condition here? Right? Like,
it's like if someone asks you like, where do you live? And you're like, Earth. Like, yeah, okay. Right, but like,
America, like that's sick. Okay. Like, yeah,
like do a little bit better.
And I like it, you need a plan in a matchup, right? It like a plan, like a broad plan in a matchup, and then you see your mulligans and your plan shrinks. It gets more specific, and then you play the first 2 turns and your plan gets more specific, and then it gets more specific, and then it kind of starts to broaden out a bit at the end of the game. But like but it should always be like adapting. My plan is changing, right? I have this is my big macro plan, but then it's always shifting and changing.
Yeah, and maybe to give some more perspective on it. So like, for instance, like you have a big plan of like, ideally I go this card, this card, this card, this card, this card on these turns, and this is what happens. And then as soon as you get your mulligan, you get your cards, like, oh, okay, well, now I can only do this and this and this. And you know, they can do these things on these turns, and this is kind of my plan. And then as you're drawing cards and they're drawing cards and you're both playing cards, the plan like snakes along as you adjust and just as you go. And that's what Majiin means by like, this is the plan, and then it gets like smaller.
So like let's say Yorlin Arms versus Pantheon. My plan as Yorlin Arms is I'm going to try to go 6 wide and cast Yorlin Arms before my Pantheon opponent is able to develop a lot of units, because they're often unit light. They go very tall. In order to do that, I'm going to not take going to try to not chump if I can, and build up a long board. It's going to influence my mulligans. I want things that get on the board quick, and I want Yorlin Arms, right? And then maybe we need more time. Maybe a mulligan comes and it doesn't quite work out. We're not finding Yorlin Arms. Maybe it's okay to start chumping then. You chump because you won't be able to save the damage later, and it's buying you more time to achieve your goal of 6 wide Yorlin Arms. And it's constantly going to change. But yeah, I want you to have a plan. And then your plan should be like how the game is won. And the game is won by going 6 wide, casting Yorlin Arms, right? That is how you win the game. Now steer the game to get to that point. Everything you do should be to get to that point. And then you introduce, what's my opponent's game plan, right? What is they're called win conditions. What's my opponent's win condition? How does Pantheon beat me? Well, if they can keep my units trimmed down, then they're not as worried about Yorlin Arms. That's their win condition, right? If they can,
or they go super big with an overwhelm unit.
They go super big
and then
with an overwhelm unit, and they cataclysm you, and it kills you. That's their win condition. So they're trying to do that. Yeah.
So for instance, like one of the things that comes up is like, well, how do you stop that? Because like typically you just can't really. But what if you Mystic Shot one of your own units, and then now the Cataclysm like fizzles basically, and the Pantheon doesn't attack anymore? So maybe you don't play your 3 power or 3 toughness unit because now you can't Mystic Shot it, or like something like of this nature, of like figuring out ways to interact with their game plan.
And yeah, so basically what I want you to do is when you get into a game, or think about a matchup with your deck and think about how does my deck win the game in this matchup, and then think about how does my opponent's deck win the game in this matchup. And your job is to steer the game towards yours and away from your opponent's. And sometimes you're going to be wrong. Like you're going to have this is my game plan, and then after 5 games of that matchup, you're going to realize this game plan doesn't work, or it's just not how it plays out really. So you need to you need to amend your game plan. It's constantly changing. It's constantly evolving. You're constantly learning new things. This is why I don't want you to autopilot. This is why I want want you to think about things. And come to these conclusions, because this is where you get there's a really good word. It's called like gestalt. I think the word is, I don't actually know how to pronounce it. I've never heard it in person. It's Gestalt, and it means like the entirety of something. To understand, like, so if you understand like the gestalt of something, you understand it all encompassing. And so that's what you're building towards of a matchup. You want to understand the gestalt. Someone knows how to pronounce it and is shaking their head while they're listening to this, but that's what you want to understand. And you're filling in pockets as you go, right? And then maybe you have kind of an epiphany and it fills in this whole section. But what you're building to is the grand gestalt. And then eventually you're going to get to a point where you'll play a matchup and you'll be like, I got it. Like, I know exactly what to do in this matchup. Unlock. Oh, they did this turn too? It changes now. Now I do this. But like, I know, right? I know exactly how this is going to go.
It feels so good.
Yeah, you're like, this turn, this,
and so if you don't have a plan to begin with,
we win.
Yeah. Doesn't matter what they do. Doesn't matter what they do. It's like Floyd Mayweather boxing or something. It doesn't matter what you do. I got an answer for everything. If you don't have a plan, you can't iterate on your plan to make it better. And then also with your plan, it should end with you winning the game. Like, don't have a plan that's like, I'm gonna do this and this, and then like, I don't know. Hopefully something good will happen. Like, no, the plan needs to go all the way to the end of you winning the game, and it could be anything. The plan, like a shit plan right now, is better than no plan at all. So like, the plan could be like, I don't know, I'm gonna play this 2-drop that picks up a card, and I'm gonna hit exactly like this 7 casted cost card, and then that's gonna win me the game. Like, that could be your plan. That's like, a fucking Hail Mary of a plan, but like sometimes that might be all you have, and that's infinitely better than having no plan at all.
Yep. A lot of times this will kind of be, you'll hear us say play to win the game, not to lose less. And that comes up a lot. Like, you have to figure out how you're going to win the game. And there will be spots, like you said, that are absolute Hail Marys. I won seasonals off what was it was the 1 mana, like, counterfeit copies of rummage to rummage enough to flip twisted, to rummage into rummage to like flip Twisted Fate on that turn and win the game. Because I understood, I go, okay, here's my game plan, and I committed. But I didn't just like not do that and play it safe and like, I don't know, maybe try to win somehow. I had a plan, and I committed, and it won me the game.
Yeah.
All right. That's all.
All right.
Yeah, I think we're good.
I think that's it for us today. Those are some good ones. If anyone, I want to hear what's everyone's favorites out of all of those, and also which ones do you not do that you feel like you need to improve on the most. Put them down in the description. I'm really interested to hear
what we left
thoughts.
out.
And we will be,
or any that we left out.
Or anything that we left out. Yes. Very good. Because there's lots. Okay, that's it for us today. Really excited for next week's
the patch,
for next week's podcast. Also, Riot Umbridge has left Riot, the creator of LOR. If anyone didn't know, goodbye, Umbridge. Thank you for creating this fucking awesome game for us and all the hard work and dedication that you put in. Everyone go on Twitter, give them a goodbye. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.